Okay, so we are recording. Thank you so much, everybody, for being there, and for anyone for whom this is the first time you're attending some kind of a event hosted by me. You will know that I'm always starting, or you need to know that I'm always starting dancing, because it's just the best way to start anything in life, I find. And Tom, I thought you already commented on the music choice. I felt freedom was a very fitting choice for any conversation that we're having with Peter. And so Peter, let me say, I'm very happy to see your face, because until the last minute, I was like, is he finding a place where he can actually join us? So that was a bit iffy. Hi, Peter. You are muted.
Let me unmute, yes. Hi, Nadja. Hi, everybody. Good to see so many people, and it's wonderful. I wasn't sure myself whether I'd make it, because I specially loaded my computer. I'm en route at the moment, and it didn't work. And I'm just back where I was loading in a bar in Hungary. And with Barbara, we've just been, I don't know if I'll make, how long I'll make it, because I've just been delivered a caipirinha. So we'll see.
Okay, so we better ask our questions quickly.
I'll just show you my view. I don't know if you can see it. We're on a lake in a place called Tata in Hungary. Maybe some of you might know it. But hello, everybody, anyway.
Oh, wonderful to see you, Peter, and wonderful to see everybody. And Vera, I just made you co-host. I hope you saw that. It would be amazing if you could help us let people in as they're dribbling in. Vera, is that okay? Can you give me a quick signal? Hello?
Yeah, you kind of made thumbs up. Yes, happy to do that.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Okay, so to get a bit into the mood, I would say let's give us a minute to just get centered in our bodies. So if you want to, you can join me in closing your eyes and just for a moment become aware of yourself. So there's somewhere the world out there, a caipirinha if you're Peter, glass of water for me. And just notice where you're sitting with your eyes closed, become aware of your environment. And just take a deep breath. And now begin to draw your attention inwards from noticing your environment to noticing your own body. Notice your feet and your calves and your knees and your thighs. Notice your buttocks, your lower belly, your lower back, your belly button, and your chest and your back. Notice your shoulders and your arms. Notice your elbows and your hands and fingers. And notice your throat and your head. Notice your left ear and your right ear. And now just imagine that with every breath you take, you inhabit the space that is your body, that is your house. You inhabit it fully. So fill it with all of you. And take another deep breath in and out. Now that you're here, begin to wiggle your limbs a little, your hands, your fingers, stretch. Maybe take a deep breath and yawn. Yes, and now we are fully here. And so what we're doing today is we're going, in German, we have this interesting saying of saying we can ask a hole into somebody's belly. Not really sure where that comes from, but we're here to ask a hole into Peter's belly. So here's how that will work. Anybody can ask any question, and no question is stupid or too basic, or we will just flow with what we have. I have a number of questions that we have already collected on the Create Love in Business platform from a few people. But of course, it's always more interesting if we do it live and in color and here and with all the beautiful people that are collected here. It's wonderful to see all of your faces, by the way. So to make things easier for me, I would really appreciate it if you could use the reaction button at the bottom of your screen. If you go there, there's a little round symbol, and you can just raise your electronic hand there. So I just raised my electronic hand, and I can now see it in the list of participants on the side. Now I can lower my hand as well. Exactly, and Laura found a smiley. There are all kinds of different buttons. We have an hour today, by the way. Somebody posted that in the chat. However, the wonderful thing is we will do this on a regular basis until Peter has sufficient holes in his belly over a period of time. So every 6 weeks or so, we'll continue with these questions. So this can be an iterative dialogue as well. Okay. So that being said, is there a brave soul who's willing to pop the first question? And if so, if you could just raise your electronic hand, that would be amazing. If you're really in a position where you cannot talk, then of course you can also put it into the chat, but it's just nicer to have an actual conversation with a person and not just read out a question. Okay, so Peter, as people are getting, yes, their courage up, and I see actually we already have somebody. Adrien, you are up. What's your question?
Hi, thanks for putting this on. Peter, hi. I'm curious the way that you know this idea of source. I'm curious how it plays out in the context of a nation state, or if that's something you've kind of thought about. So like. And how that might be different in different types of governments. So, for example, more authoritarian states like China, or more kind of like Western, more liberal states. I'm curious if you've done any research in that or thought about that, and what that looks like.
Well, thank you, Adrien. Yes, I have given, of course, that some thought, and my basic premise is that wherever any kind of initiative, project, enterprise, or let's call it organization exists and lives, there must be a source of it. Because when there is no source, the thing will start to die. So of course, this would apply to a nation state as well. And you know, when one gets to larger entities, and then to nation states or to the European Union or something like, or the United Nations, this is much more, maybe more difficult to figure out. But in fact, maybe it's not so difficult to figure out. So do you have a particular nation that interests you?
So I'm here in the United States. So to the extent that you've thought about the U.S., I'd be curious your perspective for sure.
Well, probably it is the president, because if you look at the way the kind of ritual passage of succession in the United States, there's a pretty clear ritual of passage each time there's a new president. And that's the sort of passage that one looks for orderly successions. So I would guess that it is, in fact, the president in the United States, although I haven't, you know, I can't claim to have done any research on this. But for example, I did do some research on the euro. Somebody asked me several years ago, does the euro have a source? And I thought, yeah, maybe it does. And I started researching it, and I always forget his name, but actually it's the German guy with bushy eyebrows. Maybe somebody will come up with his name again. I always forget his name. Who I really believe is the source. What's the source of the euro, for example, which is another entity which is living. And at the time Greece was in difficulty. I looked up what he was saying, and he was giving talks, and they were the clearest talks that I saw anywhere. So I do believe it applies, of course, to small startups, but it becomes very interesting to research in any entity where you have interest, no matter how small and no matter how large. And if you do, what I discovered myself is that you start to see things, recognize certain things in the entity you're looking at that you might otherwise not think are important or ignore. So that would be my general answer. Does that respond adequately?
That's excellent. Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the question. And of course, if anybody else wants to butt in and give some advice, I imagine, or respond, Nadja, I'm very happy for help here as well.
Thank you, Peter. Actually, let's let it flow for a moment.
Yeah.
I realize I'm a little overwhelmed here with the video management, so I'm going to ask Laura to join us, and we'll.
Hi, Laura.
Hello, Peter. Good to see you, and good to see you, Nadja. Thanks for hosting this. It's always wonderful to come in and be with you again. And here I am in Vancouver, BC.
Oh.
Yeah, and I just have to say, you're in Hungary. I'm practicing an accent, a dialect for Hungary for a play that I got just a couple of weeks ago. So I just think the synchronicity is there. Not the caipirinhas, but yeah, caipirinhas in Hungary. That's an interesting combo. I can't hear you.
Peter, you muted.
Sorry. So anyway, yes, what's your question?
Yes, I apologize. I rambled.
No, I liked your rambling.
But I can feel it, because when I think about the work that I participated last year in with the money conscious you, was that there's a sense of vulnerability I have about the conversations that we were having with regards to money and source. And I just think that it's more challenging today, like, to be thinking about, like, how can this expand? How can this spread around? How can this develop, this way of thinking? Because we're collectively coming together and it feels so small. And then when I think about money in this way, I feel more vulnerable about it. So I'm just, given all, the activities of the world, I would just love a little more insight about how you see it playing out. How do we continue this kind of work in the face of dark? Really, it's a lot of dark. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Laura, for this question. I've been at this for 37, 38 years now. And the original vision was that it would expand and go out and diffuse quite quickly. But exactly because of what you're describing, the vulnerability that it takes to be able to step into this work, you can't expect it, and it can't be pushed. And it can't be pushed any faster than you can push a grape to become ripe, to be ready to be picked, or any other living thing, vegetable, fruit, or anything else. So that was my learning, because I used to be an expert in marketing in a conventional way, in selling and so forth. And I very quickly came to the point with this work where I saw that once you've reached a certain level of consciousness, and maybe you've discovered this yourself, you can sort of sell to a certain point, but it doesn't work anymore. The traditional way we are encouraged to market and sell, like in business school, where we're selling products and services more like in a linear kind of way, doesn't work. So that what my learning was over the years, that I had to stop doing that and listen more to what was really wanted and needed, and then go to where I was wanted and needed. So in marketing, you learn to identify a target group and make that your target and go and run after it. And what I learned was the reverse, that I had to see for this work at this level of consciousness, I or we need to be the target. So in other words, it demands a whole different way of approach, a different way of being, relying much more on faith and following really your inner voice, trusting that the diffusion will actually come in this kind of way, and that there will be times when it will look as if nothing is happening. It requires some patience, but the encouragement is the longer you go at this, the longer, the more reputation you build over time, and you start to build the field of interest. So that would be my, I don't know if this responds quite to your question, but this is really what I've discovered. Many of my practitioners and the people I'm working with also go through. It's like you might get, a sudden burst of energy where of what I call low-hanging fruit, where people come in and are really, really interested, but sometimes they look very interested, but when it comes to actually doing the work, they all run away. They all disappear when it comes to actually doing the work. So I have had people come in to do the work, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years after they first heard of it. And that requires a certain degree of patience and trust and faith. And where I believe this work is right now with the money work and also the source work, I think we're on an exponential curve where it's picking up faster because of what's happening in the world right now. People are arriving to see much quicker that what we're normally thinking of and doing with money is less and less relevant. And this kind of looking at your relationship to it and working with the consequences of your reclamations is becoming more and more relevant with money and with everything else, not just money. And so just to conclude this, I had the benefit of being very close. You may know, do you know Nonviolent Communication, NVC, which Marshall Rosenberg started? So I had the chance and the privilege to be very close to him because he was living in my partner's hotel for 12 years and I knew him for 19 years. And I saw how his work suddenly went viral from nothing, from very small. Suddenly I saw it go viral. And I always had the feeling this work is going to go the same way. But we're maybe 10, 15 years behind. But if you're interested in this work, keep going with it because I think, that's why I've been training practitioners, because I see the demand is growing and it's coming now. And we need many more people. And I think you're in Vancouver. I have now a subsource for North America. I see Wendy is here, Wendy Hart, who did some wonderful introduction to this work, and one of her students has taken it on to actually, she's calling herself North America right now. I don't think she's here on this call, but this is she has an ambition to spread it. So maybe you'll get in touch with her at some point, with Christine Robertson, and here we go. Here we go. I've waited for 15, 20 years for somebody to source North America. The consciousness hasn't been right up to now. There've been a sporadic, I've done some money seminars in North America in the 90s, and people have been doing different things now, but nobody has taken it on to be sourced there. now there is a source there. Does that respond to your question?
Yes. Thank you, Peter. for your
Thank
time.
you. It's a long answer. I hope it's
I love
helpful.
it. I love it. It's
Okay.
juicy. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Laura. Louis, you're on.
Yes, thank you. So I'm Louis, I'm calling from Paris. I'm Français.
Bonjour, Louis.
Bonjour. I read this book and I was really inspired by it. And so I'm 61, I created a company, a consultancy company, and I'm alone and I would like to stay alone, but I'm starting to think about the transmission. I really believe that it's even, I could even add, it's a sort of not obsession, but a subject I have in my mind every day. Now, how to transmit, not tomorrow, it will take time. What kind of advice could you give me to find the best solution for the transmission? So I asked my son, he's too young, and okay, what kind of very practical advice could you give?
Okay, so I'm sure this applies not just to you, this question, but to so many people. I'm very fortunate, somebody in this call, I just transmitted to recently part of my work, which is the Money and Business Congress series. Vera is here with us, and I'm so grateful and delighted and thrilled and full of heart that she has taken a succession of part of a major part of my work. What you need to know first is that you need to just scan your whole field of people that you know, I would say including your son, because nobody is too young to feel who could be the right person, who could be the right person. And what you must know primarily is that what you transfer are the values. So it's like when you birthed your enterprise, it's like you in a sense metaphorically created a baby. So who would you want your baby, who would you trust to give your baby to? This is the most important thing. When you transmit, you will transmit these values, which will remain for as long as the enterprise lives. And you will transmit the vision. But the successor, your successor can change the vision. That won't be a problem. But you must feel sure that the person that you transmit to will carry your values. And if you don't, you won't be able to transmit because you won't feel happy with the situation. So this is the most important thing, to know that you have somebody who will carry the values. And the other message I give you is that this has nothing to do with competence, and particular operational competence, because you know yourself that operationally you're incompetent in your enterprise, right? So don't expect your successor to be operationally competent or skilled. It's not necessary, because the work is what's required is that your successor will be able to hold the field and actually carry the vision for the time that your successor is successor. So it's about being in touch with the vision and then being able to communicate the next steps. And usually you're alone, you say, but usually it's ideal if other people actually do the operations and not the source themselves. I mean, if you're alone, you're probably doing the source, you're doing the vision holding and all the operations, etc., etc. And maybe your successor will do the same, but maybe not. And if so, what's more important than the operations is actually holding the vision and identifying what the next steps are.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Pleasure.
Thank you so much, Louis. I'm going to remove your video here. And Peter, I'm sure that Vera is delighted to hear that she doesn't have to have any operational competence. Although I must say, Vera is one of the most operationally competent people I know. So
Yes, I agree with you.
That's the case. I would like to read you a question that somebody wrote in the chat. Christopher is apparently in a noisy place and can't unmute himself. So his question was, how does people's trauma and internal somatic state and sort of their state of awareness impact their ability to stay connected to source? And how can we as coaches and facilitators and healers maybe help them to find more good source / source energy in their life? Which I loved.
Okay, great question. Is Christopher actually, do we have a picture?
I think I know Christopher, but I don't think you necessarily know him.
Okay.
I don't know if he has his camera on right now.
Okay. So Christopher, if you're listening with us, of course, you know, if you read the book that was just showed to you from Louis, wasn't it? Or if you read Tom's book, Work with Source, you'll see that I refer to every source having a pathology. I couldn't find a better way of explaining this, but I like to use the word pathology. You've used the word trauma. You might say that we all have parts of ourselves that have not yet been integrated and developed. And so this is what's important to happen. This is what's important to become clearer and clearer, quicker and quicker with your source, is to continue to do the inner work with your own pathologies, traumas, development, or whatever you like to call it, because that helps you to stay in contact with your inner source and to accelerate the process of realizing your vision, your operations, realizing your project, enterprise, or initiative. So for this, I don't know if you've, Nadja probably knows better than me, if you've been doing the inner work, the money work, this is as far as I've been able to develop and help to develop, is the quickest way to reclaim aspects of yourself, which are you could call your trauma in a sort of light way, a light trauma. I've never claimed that the money work is actually a panacea to solve everything, and you may need to have other kinds of help if you're really in deep trauma. The reclamation work may not be deep enough. It's possible, but if you go on this path anyway, that's the best path to be continually connected with your inner source, let's call it that, and to help you as a source to keep your enterprise, you know, clear and advancing. That would be my answer. Nadja, do you want to add? As you know, Christopher, maybe you want to add something there.
Yeah, thank you, Peter. So I would agree that the reclamation work, as you have designed it for the money work process, is one of the most powerful ways I know how to get back to a place of strength and energy and sauciness, maybe. The other part is, I was just thinking of a process that I did this morning with a client who is currently in sort of a state of deep depression. And I felt going to reclamation wasn't quite right, but we did something that for me is related, which is working with inner parts or inner selves and helping him realize that depression is not his original state, that there is a part of him that has currently taken over that is depressed. However, that there are also other parts that are still alive and kicking within him. And by discovering these voices, he was able to create a distance between the depression and the trauma that is at the root of that depression and himself. And with that, we can also use some of the reclamation work sentences that we use in money work, but somehow that for me is also one of the very powerful tools whether you do that with voice dialogue, which is the methodology I use, or some people use in our family systems. You know, there are different approaches to that, but I find that powerful.
Super. I agree entirely. So it's whether it's the reclamation work, voice dialogue, or whatever you find, you know, use what works really, because that's really what we stand for. Use whatever works, and will work best.
Yeah, wonderful. In German, you say who heals is in the right. So yeah, use. So I am bringing up our next guest, which is Ernst, and will remove myself. Ernst, your question.
Yes, this is Ernst.
Hi, Ernst. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you. Very glad to be here. Well, maybe you have said something for helping me anyhow already. Love. We work a lot of love. I am looking for my love in this war, having experienced occupation, especially Russian occupation in my in childhood, I feel anger, revenge, powerless, and I'm missing my love. Yes, that's what is my point.
Wow, it's very deep. And can you be angry and love yourself while being angry?
Good question. Sometimes, yes, I can regret. I can be in anger. Well, if it's a very strong anger, it might be difficult. If I feel powerless, that's easier, maybe, finding back to power. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah. So it's quite legitimate to feel anything, including anger.
Yes. Yes. But when I sit here, I have it all in my body. So I'm missing some kindness, love in my body. Or sometimes when I am in conversation and when I read about the war we have now in Europe, and it's a war initiated by Russia, and this is loaded.
Yeah. So what you're feeling, what you're feeling and what we're all feeling is totally legitimate.
Yeah. Okay.
And if you don't feel it's legitimate, you see, you're making war on yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this is the origin of war.
Yeah.
So it's, you know, we're into the heart of the paradox, which is so much part of this work, actually.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you understand that, if you can go right in there and see that it's quite legitimate and it's perfectly okay to feel this anger that you have. That's actually the starting point of the love for yourself.
Yeah.
Which is what is really needed.
Yeah. Yeah, very helpful. Legitimate, accepting that it's legitimate.
Yeah.
And looking where are the corners and the places of my love in myself.
Yeah, and to see where it's appropriate to target that anger, you see, if it's appropriate.
Yeah.
Because it's a really good force. Anger can be a really good force when it's targeted in the right place and the right moment.
Yeah.
And if you retain it and hold it back, you're actually, in a sense, being angry with yourself.
Yeah.
And that is not helping you, and it's not helping anything outside you.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So this anger, you know, it can really be useful. But just to give you a little anecdote.
Yeah.
When I first in in 1981 discovered love that you're talking about, which was in a workshop called Relationships. And I came out with a sort of epiphany, you could say, sort of a kind of enlightenment. And I was just felt completely free, but I was working in business at the time. And I would get sometimes so angry with lawyers that we had to deal with, who was so boring. Mm. And I allowed myself to express my anger completely. And I would go into these lawyers' offices. I remember going into one and just banging on the table with anger and said, come on, we must get this deal. We must sign this contract. And I'm not willing to leave this office without signing it. And I banged on his table about 4 or 5 times and we walked out of the office with the contract. I mean, this was a really good example, a small anecdote of how to use this when it's really useful.
Yeah.
And you know, I was really angry, but when you're really angry and it's conscious, you'll discover that the anger is like, it's momentary. I was laughing at myself when I banged on the table. It was so funny at the same time.
Well,
just using that energy.
Yeah, that's very helpful. I will look for some receivers of my anger.
Yeah, great. Enjoy it.
And
really
enjoy it.
Yeah, really needs it. And it's a great contribution.
I can already feel that a lot of that stuff leaves my body.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ernst.
And Ernst, if I can add one thing, what I often find is when we're confronted with an emotion inside of ourselves that somehow feels crippling to us, right? It might be anger, it might be fear, it might be sadness. We sometimes have this tendency to want to jump over that feeling to the next feeling, like to jump over anger so that we can get back to love. But the first step is fully embracing and owning that. And since you've done CU Money, you're very good with the reclamation sentences to say, I am fucking angry and it is great.
Yeah. Yes, I love that sentence. Anyhow.
Well, you can say it for us, and everybody who's also angry about the war or anything else, we can say it with you.
Yeah, good. Very helpful. Thank you. For me and other people I meet.
Great. Thank you so much, Ernst.
Yeah, good.
Okay, so we have George coming up. Hang on, I will put you here and remove myself. Hi, George. Can you put on?
Hi. Thank you so much for this. Unfortunately, my video does not seem to be working at the moment. And also I will need to run right after I ask this and hear your answer. But I've been so deeply enjoying this and appreciating this. And my question is just, have you seen cases where a source of something, say the founder of a company, is able to step back from full involvement or sort of running of the company or that which is sourced while intentionally maintaining sourceship? And if so, what makes that kind of situation work well in your experience?
So I imagine George, I imagine you're facing that question yourself. Are you? You have a company and you're wondering about that yourself, or?
Yes, I'm actually. It's more that there's someone I'm working with and for who is the source of a company, and I'm seeing that person's attention potentially moving elsewhere, and also have myself an interest that he would remain the source of this. I think that could be beneficial, and I'm wondering if it's sort of workable and possible that he might do that in a way that is not consuming of large amounts of his attention on it, or if that, like, if you've seen a healthy version of that kind of thing be possible.
I would say I'm pretty black and white on this, George.
Okay.
So if the source is removing their attention from their enterprise, it means that they have a vision somewhere else.
Mm.
And it means, and they're stepping back, they're losing that attention. It means that the enterprise is sort of losing its life a bit. And you know, there's no problem in a source going off on a sabbatical or whatever.
Right.
You know, and they remain source, and the information keeps coming to them. They don't, you know, if they're not involved in operations, it doesn't matter, but they need to still be receiving the information as source and passing it on to everybody else who's doing the operation. So they're still fully involved there. But if their interest in the vision, if their vision is no longer of interest to them, then they are in the you know, the enterprise is in the course of going through a slow death, actually.
Mm.
And if that's the case, and you have an interest, for example, that it should remain alive, then you should be looking at with them in this in terms of a succession process. So to inquire of the source where they are and whether they might be interested, for example, in passing over their sourceness to somebody else, maybe even to you. And in your position, if you have, you know, an interest, you could even make a concrete offer to take the succession. You know, the process of succession, the initiative for the process of succession doesn't necessarily have to come from the source. It can come from somebody else. It could come from you. But, you know, I can imagine if you're sensing this situation, just the exchange could be very useful.
Yes.
To ask the source where they are with their vision of the enterprise, what they want to be creating else in their life.
Yeah.
And see where you are together.
Yeah.
In terms of your relationship. That would be my advice. And consider, for example, let me ask you a direct question. Would you like to be the source of the enterprise yourself?
I have not felt in particular a desire to be the source of the enterprise. Interestingly, there's a sub-project of it that I'm interested in sourcing, but I'm not wanting to be the source of the whole thing. And so I'm hoping, you know, for there to still be a source of the whole thing so that I can sub-source this other piece of it.
Okay, so do you see anybody else who could be a source?
I have inklings of ideas, but I'm not sure. I don't have a clear idea of that.
So only the source himself would know, or herself would know that.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But certainly I think the exchange on the whole subject would be very beneficial from what you're describing.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Okay, pleasure.
Greatly appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, George. And I will have Wendy up. Hi, Wendy.
Oh, Wendy, what a pleasure to see you.
Oh my gosh. Unmute myself. Am I unmuted now? Can you hear me, Nadja?
Yes.
Oh my God. It's such a thrill to be with both of you. I can't believe how much I've missed you. And the conversation's gone many ways, and you've actually answered much of what was on my mind. But first was this piece about kind of getting all of it out into the world when you were speaking with Laura, Peter. And what sparked for me was a couple of things. One was hearing a speaker friend of mine who talks about if you want to be sort of a tribe leader or you want to have an initiative, how do you find those people in the world and the ones who insist that you're the person to be with. And part of it was just really coming from heart. It was being what you were saying, kind of like being the lighthouse that somebody would come to. That wasn't the metaphor that you used, but attracting rather than going out to try and collect them like fishing. And in my own world, I've been trying to be braver and come out of hiding and put little pieces of my heart out on social media much more in the last couple of months. And it's extraordinary to me to how much comes back, to just kind of give up needing to do it in a particular way. So that was the first spark. And then my question was around reclamations specifically for now, but you helped so much with Ernst speaking to him about the inner war that we have, because I personally, I use reclamations all the time and I'm thrilled with it. And I felt extra powerless as an American lately, particularly with just the things that have happened in the last 10 days in our country. So the anger comes up. And I loved your story about banging on the table with the lawyers, and that feels like a fruitful place to put that anger, and owning my own anger and not having war inside with the parts, as Nadja said, it matters. I can jump very quickly from anger to powerlessness in the face of what feels, from my point of view, insanity, like, and sort of seeing where things go. So my actual question was, you got any reclamations for now, you know, for when circumstances feel so sort of dire and powerlessness, and what might we do other than continuing to keep reclaiming I'm fucking powerless, you know, and that's okay? Or what you got there, my friend?
Well, you know, reclaim your powerlessness, but also reclaim your power. Don't forget to do the polarity.
That would be obvious, and how do we miss it when we're in that state? Because I would jump one of those parts that's not that self energy, right, where you're really resourceful. So it's been an interesting dance. So do you have more about that? Like, just keep, you know.
Well, you know, okay, most of the time in our lives we are powerless, all of us. And I have a good friend, Robert Joseph Stadler, and his book has just come out in English. The original German version was The Philosophy of Enterprises and Art, and it's been translated into English. It's called Paid Work and the Meaning of Life. That's the English translation of the book. It's gone from 2 kilograms to 1.5 kilograms. It's reduced in weight, his book. But one of the things he points out is, and I've been pointing out to my students too from his lesson, is that, you know, we are in our power when we are in our calling, when we are doing what we love and we're loving what we're doing, then we're in our power. But all the rest of the time, it's other people who are powerful and we are not, actually. So it's actually embracing our powerlessness, but our ability to collaborate when we are not in this powerful position. So he gives the example of, you know, if you're a 100 meters runner, you know, you're not going to be much good at 400 meters or a mile. And if you're trying to be good at everything, you're going to unconsciously be experiencing your powerlessness most of the time. Whereas if you can understand that you need to be in your power when you're doing the 100 meters, but you can embrace being powerless for 400 meters and everything else. There's a paradox there, because when you really do it properly, embrace your powerlessness, it's at that moment when you go to the edge of embracing your powerlessness fully that you really start experiencing your power, because you're not trying to feel powerful. It's really, if you can go into that fully, that's really the solution. So that, you know, you're overtly powerful when you need to be, and you're powerless when you need to be, but actually at that moment when you totally accept your powerlessness, you actually experience you don't feel that you're so powerless. So is this making any kind of sense?
Shh, score. That was the nugget of the day, baby. I need to hear that. Thank you so much. And I will now, of course, as I do, share it with my tribe, because that's gorgeous.
Great. And everybody,
runner thing, and then you brought that metaphor in again, and it's like, right, but it's you said it so well. Thank you, that landed. Thank you very, very much, because it's been tricky time. Yeah, that's
thank you, Wendy. And everybody should know that Wendy has with her tribe, she's got a fantastic tribe in the United States, and she's done some wonderful videos which show people reclaiming with her tribe. and it's all official. She got permissions from everybody in her tribe that this could go out publicly on YouTube, and it's out there if people want to experience that. It's out there, and it's super. And I'm so grateful for that too. Thanks, Wendy.
Me too.
Thank you, Wendy. Amazing questions. And actually, that makes me think, I would love for all of your facilitators out there who are doing something with Peter's work, whether it's money work or whether it's source work, because we have Tom Nixon online, we have Wendy here, we have a bunch of really amazing facilitators. If you send me whatever your next offer is tonight, I will include that to the email that goes out to everybody, including the recording of today, right? Because part of this is also to continue build our community, to continue bring this work to the world. So yeah, use this platform, send me an email, and you will be included in the mailing. And we have Jackson. Hi, Jackson.
Hello.
Hi, Jackson.
Hey, Nadja. Wendy. Good to see all of you. So yeah, I've been going through seed money for like over a year now, and I just did a reclamation last night about just being in it for the money, which felt really fun. And as a product of going through the money work so deeply and slowly, just last month, kind of out of nowhere, I got to a place where I came up with and launched my own group, and we are doing parts work and and so there are some further iterations of it that I want to do that are more focused on money, and I wanted to just ask you, as I go towards that, how much and in what way do you want credit for this? Like, because I've talked about reclamations with people, but I haven't yet mentioned you, and I intend to, but I'm just, as a marketer, being like, well, sometimes saying where it's from doesn't help in the beginning.
Peter, I muted you because your background was so noisy. You have to unmute yourself again.
I'm sorry, it's probably good. There are more people around now. It may be a little noisy, but I hope you can hear me well.
Yeah.
Is that okay? So yeah, this is a great question. It'll be of interest to many different people, I think. In our source work, the crediting is very, very important. And the first person you need to credit is where you got the information from, which I think is Nadja. Is that not correct? Or is it Wendy? Yes, Nadja. So, in the hopefully not too different future, there's going to be a new website along with the platform of Love in Business, Creating Love in Business, which will show all the people who are active as practitioners. And it'll show it in two ways, and I'm hoping Tom may be helpful here. It'll show a map of the world with the different people who, I don't give any diplomas, I don't give any certificates, but there's a system I use which I call the "you're done" system, and I give the credit to that term to somebody called Charlie Davis, who may be tuning in at some point or other. But there'll be two maps. There's a map of the world, but there's the other diagram will be a tree. And the tree is like, I'm Peter Koenig, and I'm at the root or the trunk of Peter Koenig's system. And then as the work diffuses, it goes out through the closest in practitioners like Nadja to other people who will train other people who will train other people, like branches on a tree. So I won't know when you're, let me say, done to be called a practitioner of my system, but I'm trusting that Nadja will, so that you remain in contact with Nadja. And it's like a passage of responsibility. So I trust Nadja. When Nadja says you're done as far as I'm concerned. And the responsibility passes on, because you may be able to bring in other people to do the money work also. And you will then decide whether they're done or not. Do you understand? So there's a passage of responsibility all the way through, like branches on a tree, which goes out to leaves, twigs, and leaves. And this is my vision of how the diffusion will ultimately work. In a sort of self-organizing, responsible way. And that's why the credit is very important. That, you know, if you would bring in somebody else within your circles and your community, you must be responsible for what they are doing ultimately.
Yeah.
And the responsibility travels backwards through the leaves, the twigs, and the branches. So that if one of your people that you have trained would, you know, if I'd find out that something was not quite comfortable for me, I wouldn't come to you. I'd go to Nadja and say, I have a feeling there's something happening in your branch, which is not going to my satisfaction, or something like that. I'm sorry, it's getting pretty noisy here, I can hear, but I hope you've been able to hear that. Is that make sense to you? So giving the credit is one of the important things. So the first person to give credit is to Nadja, and then at the moment my system is called Peter Koenig system. That's the sort of official brand or title at the moment for it.
Okay, well then it sounds like I have some questions for Nadja that I'll ask later.
Great, that's perfect.
Looking forward to it, Jackson. Thank you so much. Okay, I think we have just about caipirinha time, but we have 2 more hands up. So I would like to ask the 2 women who are still here, Cecilie, to be brief so that Peter can go back to his caipirinha. Hi there, and you need to unmute yourself.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yep.
I just learned about you, Peter, at Amy for a week ago, I think, and I've just been watching everything, and it's kind of crazy that both Nadja and Wendy is here, because I have been watching Wendy's videos several times, and the second one is actually why I'm about my question, because can I do something wrong doing reclamation? Because I've kind of got myself scared both the times I've heard the second tape, because I have made my own statements, or what is it called? You call it
reclamation statements.
But something that I have to get.
Okay, so
but can I do something wrong? And the polarity you said, is it just because I'm getting too focused on the scary stuff?
So Cecilie, Cecilie, so yes, you can do something wrong, and I encourage you to do something wrong.
Okay.
Because if you do something wrong, the only thing that will happen is that it won't work, but you can't do any damage.
Okay, because I can assure you, I feel it work. I'm getting very hot, and my heart is beating a lot, and I'm thinking, is this the right thing to say? But I know I can see that I'm all of it, and but it's kind of difficult to say I'm loving being sick. It's just I love to have a lot of pain, and you know.
So what I always encourage is just to experiment, like you're experimenting right now. And sometimes these phrases don't make any sense in, you know, normal terms, but we experiment with them to see what happens and if they work and if they have an effect. And if they have some effect, then if some movement is occurring, then something is happening, and if nothing happens, the worst that can happen is that you feel a fool.
Okay.
You feel like an idiot, and that's the result of this experimental work, is that you feel like an idiot. I mean, if you need a little bit more, where did you hear this? Where did you get this work from? From Amy, you say?
Yeah, Amy, you were at Amy's for a week ago, I think. No, it was Christine.
Christine's, yeah. So I was at Amy's a week ago too.
Yeah, and it was there, and then
okay.
she recommended me to watch Wendy's videos, and
right.
I can tell you I'm totally in love with your work, and I've just tried to get a reach on Nadja, but I couldn't, and I've written to her. But so today I called her on the telephone, and she answered and said, "You can be with us all today," and it was just what?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so Cecilie, do join Nadja on See You Money, and then you'll get a more refined way of, you'll learn maybe a more refined way of doing of how to frame the reclamations. But what I encourage is, it takes, particularly around the subject of money, people need encouraging sometimes to take the risk, because the money work can go so deep. But what I've, over the years, what I've discovered, when I researched it, I took one small step and it's followed it with one small step and one small step and one small step. And I can tell you over the years, what my conclusion is that you can't do any damage by making a mistake with this. The only thing that can happen is that nothing happens. And if nothing happens, nothing happens. And then you try something else. But actually, if the phrases are touching somewhere, they're usually touching in a constructive direction, even if it doesn't make any sense to the mind. But with experience, the more you do this work, the more refined you become. So sometimes people say, well, how did you know to you? I'm sure this happens to Nadja all the time too. How did you know? How did you tune into that particular phrase? Where did that come from? And it comes from, like just picking up very fine tuning of, after having done this work with years of making mistakes.
Yeah.
of your years of wrong phrases, and picking up the finer and finer nuances. So that's why I encourage people to get into it and make the mistakes. It's really not a problem. It's how the quality rises and rises and rises.
I can also see that my sentences and questions to myself is changing every time I hear it. I think, no, it's more like this, because now this is done with, or I don't know if I'm right or wrong.
Yes,
but
exactly.
I'm so in love with your work.
Thank you.
And with Nadja and Wendy.
Thank you so
Wonderful.
much. Okay, let's move on to the very last question of today. And Ruth, you're up and you need to unmute yourself. Hi, Ruth.
Yeah, hello. Thanks for this. Hi, Peter. We briefly met in the Thriving Networks course.
Oh, yeah, good friend.
Good to see you again. My question is maybe hard to answer because it needs context, but I'll just say the question itself and see if you have any thoughts, but I know we won't probably get into it. So it's relating to source, and I've been feeling like a lost source for a while, kind of like not fully connected to my initiative and understanding where it's going, and also kind of whether the thing that I have in mind is a future iteration of the existing thing, or if it's something separate. But just if you have any thoughts around that, and yeah, from experience.
So have you, what comes to me is around your vision. So when you sourced, you have an enterprise, a company, a project, an initiative.
Yeah, initiative network.
And you have a network.
Mm.
So when you sourced your network, you had a vision. What's your, may I ask what your network is called?
Yeah, it's called Young UN Agents for Change.
The Jungian agent.
Young UN. So
Young
network
UN.
within the UN.
Okay.
But the vision is very big. It's a UN that embodies the principles it stands for.
Mm-hmm. Right. So where are you with that vision right now?
A long way from it. I mean, we've done a lot, but there's still a lot more to do. And I think that this network has been one form of getting there, but that the next form of what's needed is probably not what's come so far, if that makes sense.
And where are you with that personally?
Yeah, that's a big question.
I mean,
I'm trying to figure out if I have the energy for it, like if it's, yeah, I think that's the lost part.
So do you have something else that interests you more now?
And I think this is where it comes to the, not sure if it's the same thing or not. I think I'm more and more interested in things outside of this UN space, but which could be brought in to reach that vision in a sense. So a lot of the most interesting things like this money work, for example, or like self-management, stuff like this is happening outside the system. But if we've created the web that connects inside, outside, then you could start to do something really big at scale in the system, if that makes sense.
So are you working?
That's where my interest is going.
Yes. Are you working in the UN at the moment?
Yeah.
You're employed by the UN?
Yeah.
Okay. So my experience of people working in the UN, I know at least 2 other people who have exactly the same experience, and it's a really tough thing to bring in this kind of work into the UN. So I imagine what I'm imagining is that you've tried to bring it in and you're getting a pushback at the moment. Is that more or less what's happening? You've been getting a pushback from the way the UN works, from the kind of structures which are in the UN and actually seem to be pretty impervious or something like that?
Yeah, it's kind of like a delayed reaction because we got a lot of momentum over about 4 or 5 years and grew to like 2,500 people and a lot of energy. Wow. And like it felt very hopeful. Yeah. And then we started to hit more barriers, but also I think internal barriers in terms of some of the people who are most engaged feeling exhausted.
Right. So okay, this is a source thing. So is there one person in the UN, in your system, no, not in your system, but one person that you need to deal with in the system that is creating this barrier that you can identify? Is that what is demotivating you?
I'm not sure. I think it's just the enormity of it, because it's like a lifetime project. And then it's like, is that what to dedicate one's life to, in a sense? Yeah.
Okay.
The calling question. And like, what does it emerge into? Like, is it something that connects to all of these other things that are exciting?
Your network of 2,500, they're all people in the UN?
Yeah. I mean, some have left already, but yeah. In different parts, all over. Yeah. So it can be what food program or.
Let me be precise. Have you come across Patrick McNamara, is he part of your?
He's not part of it. I've heard the name. I need to look up where exactly.
Because he's actually responsible for transformation processes within the UN.
Yeah.
So I don't know if.
Yeah.
You know,
be interesting.
I mean, the question is really where, you know, it comes back to where you are with your energy, of course. But if you've sourced a network of 2,500 people in the UN, you know, the question is, what would you want to do with it if you don't want to continue it? So the precise question, I mean, I think this would be a much longer, maybe we need a longer discussion, but it would be, you know, would you be happy to let your network die? You know, would you be happy just to leave it and the whole thing will just fold in? Or would you want to do would you not want it to? Would you want to do a succession? But in which case, it might not be successful, because if you're kind of demotivated, it's much more difficult to find a successor.
Yeah, that's true.
Then if you have, you know, you want to leave because you've got another vision somewhere else and your life is somewhere else, and you need to leave because your life is somewhere else, then it's a whole different matter than if you're, you know, you're feeling that it's difficult to create a succession if you're saying, well, you know, it hasn't really worked as I would have liked it to. So it feels like I can't really answer your, you know.
Yeah, no, you've already done a great job.
To really answer your question, maybe raise more questions than answers right now.
Yeah, that's often good.
but do keep in, you know, I think it's a very interesting question, and I think your vision is so valuable. Your vision has been so valuable. Personally, I wouldn't like to see it just disappear like this.
Thank you.
And so maybe stay in contact with us or see where we can help in some way or other.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Yeah, and with Fran, of course. I mean, we can maybe have a longer and more compact discussion on this if it's helpful to you.
That would be amazing. Thanks, Peter.
Thank you so much, Ruth.
Nadja? Yeah.
Yes.
Over to you, Nadja.
People have to drop out. Peter, firstly, and Ruth, I will unpin you. Thank you. Thank you so much for allowing us to ask a hole into your belly. And I noticed that there is a lot of movement in the community. So I'm very, very excited about the upcoming Ask Me Anything calls. I will be sending out a bunch of information tomorrow, including the recording, but also all the different links that were posted in the chat and anything else that the practitioners might send to me tonight. Yeah, if you send it tonight, you will actually get included into the mailing. And Peter, any last words that you want to share?
Just my gratitude for you, Nadja, for setting this up. I think it's really been extremely fun, and hopefully lots of value for people, and that this work can diffuse, and that yeah, I think that's all I would want to say today, and look forward to our next session. I think it looks like it's a very valuable and useful thing to be doing, and as I say, I've enjoyed myself a lot.
How amazing. Thank you so much. So I will conclude the recording here.